Hello and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi. My name is Nurul Suryani and my matrix number is UDE210098. I am a leader from Group 5. Today my group and I will be presenting about coffee consumption among teenagers and adults in Malaysia. Before we start our presentation, I will introduce my group members. The first member is Nazifa Batrisha binti Nazik. The second member is Nur Nabila binti Shamsuddin. The third member is Nur Ayunisha Mimi binti Tubarani. And the last member is Divya Mohan. I will pass to Nazifa to explain about frequency distribution.
Assalamualaikum and hello everyone. My name is Nazifa Batrisha binti Nazik and my matric number is UDE210202. On this beautiful day, I will present about the frequency distribution. But before we start this presentation, what is the mean by frequency distribution? A frequency distribution is the frequency of repeated item in a graphical or tabular form. It provides a visual display of the frequency of an item or show the number of items it occurs. The function of the frequency distribution is to organize the collected data in tabular form. Data can be scored by score a student, a different city temperature, and a point score in a volleyball match. After data collection, we need to present data in a meaningful way for better understanding. Arrange the data in such way that all its features are summarized in a table. This is known as the frequency distributions. Each data collected is divided into two types, namely qualitative data and quantitative data. Qualitative data is known as approaching and characteristic data. This is because qualitative data can be observed and recorded. This type of data is non-numeric. This type of data is collected through observations methods, one-on-one interview, conducting a focus group, and similar methods. Example of the data is gender, race, and occupation. Qualitative data will use a type of graph like pie chart and a bar chart. To provide this data frequency table, we need class frequency, relative frequency, and cumulative frequency. For example, we have surveyed a coffee consumption among teenagers and adults in Malaysia. One of the qualitative data is the gender of the respondent. We have 168 respondents. So, to calculate the frequency, we need to calculate the number of males and females separately according to class. The class is divided into two, namely males and females. To calculate the relative frequency, we must take the number of one class and divide it by the total number of respondents, while for cumulative frequency, we need to take the amount of data before and add it to the current data. For example, if the number of previous data is 31 and the current data is 137, then we added it will be 168. It is the border with the total number of our respondents. Last but not least, quantitative data is data value in the form of count or number, where each data set has a unique numerical value associated with it. This data is any measurable information that can be used for mathematical calculation and statistical analysis, so that decision in real life can be made based on this mathematical derivative. Quantitative data is used to answer questions such as how much, how often. This is data can be verified and can also be validated easily using mathematical technique. For example, total exam mark, age, and total income. Quantitative data use type of chart such as histogram, time series, and an item and leaf plot. To construct a frequency distribution table data, we need a class, a frequency, midpoint, relative frequency, and cumulative frequency. For example, we have surveyed coffee consumption among teenagers and adults in Malaysia. One of the quantitative data found in the survey is age. For the class, it has been set using at least 10 classes. Based on the table, the distance between classes is 11. This is because when 22 minus 11 is equal to 11. For frequency, we have calculated the frequency separately according to classes. The way to calculate the midpoint is 11 plus 12 and divided by 2, so we will get 16.5. To calculate the relative frequency, we must take the number of one of the classes and divide it by the total of respondents. While for cumulative frequency, we need to take the amount of data before and add it to the current data. In conclusion, by providing a frequency distribution table, we will get the number of data more accurate and easy to understand. That's all for me. Thank you for listening. I will pass the presentation to the next presenter.
Hello madam, my name is Nurul Nabila binti Shamsuddin and my matrix number is UDE210106. So I am going to present about graph and pie chart. So firstly is race, which is majority race for coffee drinker is Malay. Next is the most gender that like to drink coffee is female. The least gender drink coffee is male. For respondent occupation is 83% of respondent is a student. The highest education of student is STPM or diploma or the equivalent. Next is 71% is a coffee drinker. A total of 152 coffee drinkers are aged 11 to 22 years old. A total of 162 people has a personal monthly income is around 0 ringgit to 2,000 ringgit. A total of 155 people spend money around 0 ringgit to 50 ringgit for a coffee in every week. Most people like to buy coffee from the coffee shop compared to make their own coffee. 38% of respondents is like to buy Nescafe to make their own coffee. Second is 31% who like to buy Kopi O to make their own drink. 20%, which is 98 respondents who often visit Tea Life to buy coffee. Second is 60%, which is 77 respondents love to buy Starbucks. Most of respondents is very satisfied with the quality of the coffee bean. Most of respondents would class 3 for spacious environment. 37% respondents say that sales promotion is important. 42% respondent is concerned about the price of a cup of a coffee and they satisfied with the price. 60% of respondents say cleanliness of the shop is very important. 49% of respondents agree that the speed of services is very important. 57% respondents say that the shop is having a friendly service and it is very important to attract many people. That's all from me. Thank you.
Hi and Assalamualaikum Madam. My name is Nur Aini Shamimi binti Tubarani and my metric number UDE10083. I will present measure of central tendency. First, I will give the definition. A mean is the simple mathematical average of a set of two or more number. For median is the middle number in assorted ascending or descending list of the numbers. Mode is a statistical term that refers to the most frequently occurring number found in a set of numbers. First sample of data, race. Mode, the greatest frequency with 1, 4, 5 responses for the race of coffee consumption among teenagers and adults in Malaysia. Gender, the greatest frequency with 1, 3, 7 responses for the gender of coffee consumption among teenagers and adults in Malaysia. Occupation, the greatest frequency with 1, 4, 0 responses for the occupation of coffee consumption among teenagers and adults in Malaysia. Highest education, mode, the greatest frequency with 1, 0, 9 responses for the education of coffee consumption among teenagers and adults in Malaysia. Are you a coffee drinker? Mode, the greatest frequency with 1, 2, 0 responses for the coffee drinker of coffee consumption among teenagers and adults in Malaysia. For age, mean 18.493, median 6. Mood, the greatest frequency with 152 responses for the age of coffee consumption among teenagers and adults in Malaysia is between 11 to 22. Estimate personal monthly income, mean 1131.018, median 2.5. Mood, the greatest frequency with 162 responses for the personal monthly income of coffee consumption among teenagers and adults in Malaysia is between 0 to 2000. How much do we spend money on coffee weekly? Mean 30.464, median 6. Mood, the greatest frequency with 155 responses for the money that they spend for coffee monthly of coffee consumption among teenagers and adults in Malaysia is between 0 to 50. Do you usually make coffee at home or buy from coffee shop? Mood, the greatest frequency with 90 responses of coffee consumption among teenagers and adults in Malaysia. Coffee brand that usually respondents buy to make own coffee. Mood, the greatest frequency with 1 to 7 responses of coffee consumption among teenagers and adults in Malaysia. Coffee shop that responds often visit to buy coffee. Mood, the greatest frequency with 98 responses of coffee consumption among teenagers and adults in Malaysia. Quality of coffee bean, mean 0.187, median 40. Mood, the response of teenagers and adults in Malaysia who rate 5 occurs with the greatest frequency, which is 60. Variety of coffee flavors, mean 3.774, median 44. Mood, the response of teenagers and adults in Malaysia who rate 4 occurs with the greatest frequency, which is 60. Species environment, mean 3.696, median 46. Mood, the response of teenagers and adults in Malaysia who rate 3 with the greatest frequency, which is 52. Sales promotion, mean 3.929, median 47. Mood, the response of teenagers and adults in Malaysia who rate 5 with the greatest frequency, which is 62. The price of a cup of coffee, mean 4.071, median 33. Mood, the response of teenagers and adults in Malaysia who rate 5 occurs with the greatest frequency, which is 17. Cleanliness of the shop, mean 4.387, median 22. Mood, the response of teenagers and adults in Malaysia who rate 5 occurs with the greatest frequency, which is 100. Speed of service, mean 4.179, median 32. Mood, the response of teenagers and adults in Malaysia who rate 5 occurs with the greatest frequency, which is 82. Friendly service, mean 4.321, mean 25. Mood, the response of teenagers and adults in Malaysia who rate 5 occurs with the greatest frequency, which is 96. That's all from me. Thank you.
So, hi madam, my name is Divya Anaprapamohan and my metric number is UDE210197. So, for my part is measurement of range, variance and standard deviation. Variance of data by age for the coffee drinker of coffee consumption among teenagers and adults in Malaysia is 47.713, while the standard deviation of an data by age for the coffee drinker of coffee consumption among teenagers and adults in Malaysia is 6.9075. The variance of the data by estimated personal income for the coffee drinker of coffee consumption among teenagers and adults in Malaysia is 534,180.7717, while the standard deviation of the data by estimated personal income for the coffee drinker of coffee consumption among teenagers and adults in Malaysia is 730.877. The variance of data for the money that they spend for coffee monthly by coffee drinker of coffee consumption among teenagers and adults in Malaysia is 468.358, while the standard deviation of the data by the money that they spend for coffee monthly for the coffee drinker of coffee consumption among teenagers and adults in Malaysia is 21.642. The variance of data quality of coffee beans by coffee drinker of coffee consumption among teenagers and adults in Malaysia is 14.494, while the standard deviation of the data by quality of coffee bean for the coffee drinker of coffee consumption among teenagers and adults in Malaysia is 3.807. Variance of data variety of coffee flavors by coffee drinker of coffee consumption among teenagers and adults in Malaysia is 3.722, while the standard deviation of the data variety of coffee flavors for the coffee drinker of the coffee consumption among teenagers and adults in Malaysia is 1.929. Variance of data species environment by coffee drinker of coffee consumption among teenagers and adults in Malaysia is 3.595, and while the standard deviation of the data species environment for the coffee drinker of coffee consumption among teenagers and adults in Malaysia is 1.896. Variation of data sales promotion by coffee drinker of coffee consumption among teenagers and adults in Malaysia is 4.888, and the standard deviation of data sales promotion by the respondent is 2.211. Variance of data a price of a cup of coffee by coffee drinker of coffee consumption among teenagers and adults in Malaysia is 1.084, while the standard deviation of the data of price of cup of coffee by the respondent is 1.041.
Today, I will explain about inferential statistic and conclusion for this group assignment. What is inferential statistic? Inferential statistic involve using sample data to draw conclusion about a population. For question 1, the majority race that consumes coffee is Malay. The least race who consumes coffee is Bugis, Pakistan, and Lumbawang. A possible inference drawn from the study is that most Malays are consuming coffee in Malaysia. For question 2, the most gender that consumes coffee is female. The least gender that consumes coffee is male. A possible inference drawn from the study is all females are consuming coffee in Malaysia. For question 3, most respondent for occupations of coffee consumption is student. The least respondent for occupation of coffee consumption is a housewife. A possible inference drawn from the study is most students are consuming coffee in their life. For question 4, the highest education of coffee consumption is SDPM, diploma or the equivalent. The lowest education for coffee consumption is other. A possible inference drawn from the study is students with SDPM, diploma or the equivalent are the most consume of coffee. For question 5, the number of coffee drinkers is more than the amount of non-coffee drinkers, which is 120 respondents. The number of non-coffee drinkers is less than the number of coffee drinkers, which is 48 respondents. A possible inference drawn from the study is teenagers and adults in Malaysia are coffee drinkers. The greatest vote for age is 152, which is 11 to 22 years old. The least vote for age is 4, which is 35 to 46 and 47 to 58 years old. A possible inference drawn for the study is most 11 to 22 years old often consume coffee. The greatest vote for estimated personal income is 162, which is RM0 to 2000. The smallest vote for estimated personal income is 1, which is RM 6003 to 8003. A possible inference drawn for the study is most respondents have an estimated personal monthly income of Rm0 to 2000. That's all for us. Thank you, madam, for listening our presentation.